Okay, I'm trying this again. This is Cindy, ADHD Coach, and for some reason, I did not see this streaming on Facebook. So if you can see me on Facebook, if you could just say hi in the chat so that I know everything's working. But for some reason, it was not working earlier. Let me pull it up and see if I can see myself. Yay, it's working now. Sorry about that. I hope I didn't lose people. But anyway, I'm glad to be with you all. If you are watching live, if you could say hi in the chat. For some reason, a minute ago, it didn't stream to the Facebook group, and I had to stop it and start all over with a whole brand new broadcast. So I am live. April, what is it? April 11th. So hopefully you are able to see and hear me. Yay, I see a person jumping on. So let me pull it up on my phone. I can see that's Angela. Hi, Angela. Good. So somebody can see and hear me. That's awesome. So if you're watching on the replay, just say hashtag replay. But if you are watching live, let me know in the chat. I would love to know that you are with me tonight, and we're going to dive right in. You know, last week I talked about 4 reasons that you might have clutter and what you can do about it. And today I'm going to talk about how clutter affects our mental and physical health. And so lots of research that I'm going to cite, but I'm just going to summarize it because who wants to hear boring data, unless you're a boring data kind of person, which I'm not. So anyway, sorry, I got distracted because my dog just came and licked my arm while I was talking to you. So anyway, it seems like everybody is talking about decluttering these days. It's kind of the, like if you Google declutter, a gajillion things comes up. From cleaning out the garage, everything from that to folding everything the Marie Kondo way. And a lot of us have vowed to get more organized this year. And there's a good reason, because clutter can affect your anxiety levels, your sleep, your ability to focus, and even your weight. I know, right? It can also make us less productive. And that's triggering for coping and avoidance strategies, like that makes us more likely to snack or binge watch TV, including reality shows about other people decluttering their lives. But there's a lot of things that we need to think about when it comes to clutter. It's more than just how it looks visually. You've got the possibility of slips and falls, right? Living with lots of clutter puts you at risk of getting injured. And when your floor is covered with boxes, heaps of clothing, or even like too much furniture, it's that much easier to trip. When I was a child, my mother accidentally, she was carrying, I will never forget this, she was carrying a bowl of hot chicken noodle soup. And my brother, who is a lot younger than me, had one of those little xylophone things that you hit the stick on, it plays music, and it's on wheels like a skateboard. Well, that's exactly what it became for her, because she stepped on it and skateboarded across and spilled boiling hot soup on my leg, and I had a very, very bad burn. So it can happen. And so you got shelves stuffed to the brim with books and knickknacks, and that can be a hazard if something falls off or a piece of like overloaded furniture topples over. And so our physical environments, they affect a lot of things, and they can affect us, our thinking, our emotions, behavior, including our relationship with other people. Hold on just a minute. Hey, stop that. Sorry, my dog is obsessively licking his paw, and it's driving me crazy. But clutter affects how we think. And, if you've got cabinets bursting over and paper stacked all around the house, it may seem like it's harmless, but research shows that disorganization and clutter has a cumulative effect on our brains. And so, you definitely have these safety issues like slipping and falling, but you've also got things like fire hazard. So if you've gone overboard on papers and other flammable items, then your home can end up being a fire hazard. So even if a fire starts, like in the most common place, the kitchen, like a stove burner catching the edge of your dish towel or something like that, the clutter makes it hard to get help. And if your pathways and your exits are blocked, you're going to have more trouble getting out in time, and firefighters are going to have a harder time putting out the blaze. So lots of safety issues. So let's talk about the brain for a minute. Poor working memory. People with ADHD have a poor working memory, especially short term. And living in a cluttered home just makes that worse. So your brain is wired to be able to keep track of only a few details at once for a short period of time. So it can get overloaded when there's too much going on. Our brains like order, and constant visual reminders of how disorganized we are. It just drains the brain. It drains our cognitive resources and reduces our ability to focus. So the visual distraction of clutter increases that cognitive overload, and it can reduce our working memory. I think it was 2011, the neuroscience researchers used MRIs, actually fMRI, functional magnetic resonance imaging, and other physiological measurements. And they found that clearing clutter from the home and the work environment actually resulted in a better ability to focus and process information, and also increased productivity. So, what do you guys think about that? If you are jumping on live, say hi in the chat. I would love to know you are watching. And if you're watching the replay, just say #replay. Had a little technical difficulties at the beginning, so let me know you're here. And so how the brain functions is affected by clutter, but what about our mental health? Clutter can make us feel stressed, makes us feel anxious, makes us feel depressed. And some research from our country, the United States, in 2009, they found that levels of the stress hormone cortisol were higher in mothers whose home environment was cluttered. And all of you are going, yeah, what mother doesn't have a cluttered home? But anyway, it's the stress hormone. It goes up when we're around clutter. A chronically cluttered home environment, it leads to constant kind of low grade of that fight or flight response. And that just taxes our resources that are designed for survival. So that response can trigger physical and psychological changes. And that affects how we fight illnesses and how we digest food, as well as it can leave us for greater risk of type 2 diabetes, heart disease. So just remember, mess equals stress. I read that somewhere and I like that. Mess equals stress. When everything is in order, you know exactly where you put your glasses and exactly where you put your keys, so you can grab them and go without getting delayed with your day. And it saves a whole lot of time and a whole lot of headaches. Excuse me. In one study, women who saw their homes as cluttered, they had higher levels of that stress hormone cortisol throughout the entire day. And while those that described their homes as well-organized, restful spaces had lower levels. So even if they weren't physically in the home at the time, just talking about it, or the way they viewed it, made a difference. And so, speaking of the home, our clutter can also have implications for our relationships with people around us. Um, they did another study in the US that they found background clutter resulted in participants being um, less able to correctly interpret the emotional expressions on the faces of characters in a movie, like less likely to read people accurately, which I think is kind of interesting. So, so if you're jumping on live, say hi in the chat. Well, I had some technical issues earlier. Hi, Gina. Hey, Melissa. Good to see you. Hey, Rochelle, Becky. Good, good, good. So we've talked about how clutter can be a fire hazard. It can cause slips and falls. It can affect our thinking, and now it affects stress. And surprisingly, it doesn't go away when we finally go to bed at night. People who sleep in cluttered rooms are more likely to have sleep problems, including difficulty falling asleep and waking up, being disturbed during the night. So people who have an actual hoarding disorder, they have done studies and they are a lot more likely to have insomnia. So obviously sleep is important for clear thinking and decision making. So if you're sleep deprived, you're more likely to make questionable decisions, including decisions to get more stuff that you really don't need, making your house more cluttered, right? So the big thing that that I was interested in is that there have been lots of studies about clutter and weight gain. So you may have heard that clutter can make you fat. I've heard that before. But can it really make us overweight? Evidently, yes. Multiple studies have found a link between clutter and poor eating choices. So I guess the habits kind of cross over into different areas. So disorganized and messy environments led participants in these studies, or in one study in particular, to eat more snacks. They ate twice as many cookies than participants in an organized kitchen environment, which I think is interesting. If you like cookies, it seems like you would just eat the same amount. Excuse me, I'm allergic to pollen and I can't talk. So, um, so there's a link to the eating, and other research has shown that being in a messy room is going to make you twice as likely to eat a chocolate bar than in a clean room. Wouldn't you like to be a part of that study? It's like, yeah, I'll eat a chocolate bar, but evidently that's the deal. So in fact, people with extremely cluttered homes, get this, they're 77% more likely to be overweight. I know, right? And one study found that as the hoarding got worse, so did the person's BMI, their body mass index, and they were more likely to binge eat. So tidy homes have been found to be a predictor of physical health. And so participants of the study whose houses were cleaner were more active and they had better physical health. So, hoarding, it's a real thing. A lot of times we use that term loosely, but this kind of the psychological Bible, the DSM-4, I think it's Diagnostic Statistical Manual. But according to that manual, buying more and more things that we think we need and not getting rid of anything is an actual disorder. It's called hoarding. It's when they compulsively acquire possessions, like just on an ongoing basis, and they experience, I mean, you might have seen the show. They experience anxiety and just almost mental anguish when something's thrown away, so hopefully our clutter has not gotten to that point. But there's other issues that you might not even think about, but you've got the whole idea of embarrassment of your home and that leading to isolation. Um, Research has shown that cluttered home environments negatively influence the perception of our homes and then ultimately with our satisfaction of life. So generally, people with neater homes are happier. And the researchers say, um, I think they say that because when people talk about home, it's not just their house or their apartment. It's just not just a place to live, but they're talking about their overall life, really. So a neat and tidy house, it feels inviting both for the people who live there and for the guests that visit. And so if you keep people out because you're embarrassed about your home, that can lead to disconnect with people and loneliness. And that could be one reason that a hoarding disorder tends to overlap with depression and anxiety. Um, so what do you guys think? Let's hear some comments in the chat. Do you see any connection between stress and clutter, or embarrassment and loneliness and clutter, any of those kind of things? If you see, let's start with stress. If you see a connection, if you agree that there's a connection between clutter and stress, say yes in the chat. We'll love to see. I have to look on my phone because I can't see everybody's names. If you can't get to the kitchen, I'll see the rest of it. So, all right, let's see who we got here. Hey, Angela, Gina, Rachel, Sally. I love that. That's the best name. Sally Sunshine. That is an awesome name. Like that, I would buy that name. Anyway, hey Becky, 3P power person in the house. Um, yes, we got some yeses. Yeah, so there is a connection between stress and clutter. Shh, sorry. um, the bottom line is just we got too much stuff, right? A lot of people will say, okay, a messy desk means that you're more creative. And that actually may be true because creative people don't fit in the status quo, but the downside is greater. There still needs to be order to feel your best. If your closets are bursting and your desk is topped with the like just piles and piles of disorganized papers, you know, start today by just organizing one little tiny area and see how that feels. Because it doesn't get any easier. If you're like a bit scatterbrained because your space is scattered, don't wait to straighten it up. Because research has shown that adults in their 50s who have too many piles of stuff, they're more likely than younger people to put off making decisions about what to get rid of. So do it now. If you're in your 50s, still do it now. But the study also found that those piles can make you less satisfied with your life. So it's almost like they want to get rid of the clutter, but they have a harder time making decisions about what to keep and what to donate and what to throw away. But clutter does affect our decision making. It affects our mind. Um, it's hard to focus on important things when several different things compete for your attention. And so, researchers have found that being around disorganization makes it harder for your brain to focus. And that's especially true for those of us that have ADHD, right? Um, where I live in the Memphis area, there's horrible pollen going on right now, tree pollen. And then after the tree pollen comes the grass, and then comes the ragweed. But right now is the tree pollen season. And so it's important to dust, and I hate dusting. But there's a reason people often call knickknacks, they call them dust collectors, because too much stuff makes it harder to keep your space clean. So I'm allergic to dust mites. And so decluttering just makes it easier for me to dust and vacuum and get my allergy symptoms under control. Um, they've even done studies about generosity and being organized. A more organized environment can make you more caring towards other people. They did one study where volunteers filled out surveys in a neat room and then in a messy room. And the ones in the neat room were more likely to say that they wanted to donate to a charity compared with the others. So I know it's kind of interesting. But anyway, there's more I could say about that, but I think that's a lot. And I really just wanted to motivate you a little bit tonight to just get started. Don't overthink it. Go through your house with 3 trash bags. One is for donate, one is to trash, and one is are things that go in another room and they're misplaced. And so just start with that, kind of a surface clean sweep, or pick one small area. Like this weekend, I cleaned out the pantry, in the kitchen, and it just makes me feel so good. I mean, I open the doors and I'm like, oh, I mean, because I could see what all I have. I don't have multiple, you know, like at one time I had 4 containers of Parmesan cheese. I love Italian food. And I didn't know I had any. So I kept buying more. And it's because I couldn't see, because I would put stuff back in there where it would block the view of other things. Now I have it all neat. And it only took me like 10 minutes. I just took things out and then I stacked them back in there in a neat way. So I promise it will make you feel so much better. You want to talk about a dopamine lift? If you have ADHD, do something to clear the clutter and you will feel so much better. I promise. So let me know in the chat, do you have any tips or anything that you want to add um, that works for getting rid of clutter, or any of your thoughts on that? Gina said, feeling trapped in a corner or knowing that you have what you need, but you can't get to it. It's very stressful. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you've ever moved and you've just got boxes everywhere and just that feeling of being unsettled, it's not a good feeling. And so you don't want to stay permanently in that feeling, right? Especially stress since I work from home. Yes. Yeah, especially my home office is right off of the kitchen. There's no door separating. It's almost looks like it's part of the kitchen. I think it was supposed to be the dining room. And so if I want to concentrate and the kitchen is a mess, it bothers me. I have to clean up the kitchen before I could go in my office and concentrate. Because clutter really does affect your concentration. So anything else you guys or have questions, or it's very quiet in the chat tonight. So I would love to hear from you all. And if you're watching the replay, if you could just say hashtag replay, that would be awesome. And let me know what your thoughts are too. All right. Any questions or any comments or any tips that you have found that work? Let me look back up here, see what you guys say. Any questions? I don't see anything. All right. Well, if there's no questions, I would encourage you to get started tonight. Do one thing that will declutter, just something in your house. It will make you feel so much better, I promise. And that's all I've got for you all tonight. I'll see you next time. Bye.